Now, I don't usually dedicate an entire video to a single graphics card unless it's part of a GPU launch or it's really interesting. ITX graphics cards this small are part of that really interesting category because it is fun to explore how companies have crammed so much power into a small PCB and cooler. And I'm really glad that I tested the new RX 5600 XT ITX from Powercolor because not only is it the smallest 5600 XT that you can buy at only 175 millimeters, but it also has a really big problem that you guys should be aware of. It's the kind of problem that will give you a headache in the literal sense, and if you're not careful, probably set off your fire alarm as well. For those of you who are prepared to do a bit of manual tuning though, this card does have some hope and it could still be a viable option for those with a seriously tiny gaming rig. So Powercolor, I'm sorry, but I really do have to put you under the flame for this one. It's not something that I usually do, but someone over there really is not doing their job. Now, I understand that for most of you, ITX sized graphics cards aren't totally relevant, seeing as even full-length cards do fit in cases under 15 liters these days. But if you're building something really small, say under 5 or 6 liters, usually only cards under 175 to 200 mils will fit. That means for cases like the Skyreach 4 Mini, the Velka 3, and Intel's NUC 9 Extreme, these graphics cards are relevant, and it's great to see that they're still being made. So as a point of comparison, we'll be comparing Powercolor's ITX model to the full-sized Sapphire Pulse, which I'd say is one of the safer options on today's market. And by full-sized, it's by no means a triple slot, triple fan behemoth. That would be pretty overkill for an RX 5600 XT GPU anyway, but it's definitely a regular sized card that a lot of people would be more inclined to buy. Now, let's just skip straight to the thermal performance because that's where things get a little bit concerning. For whatever reason, the fan curve on Powercolor's ITX RX 5600 XT is just completely broken, to the point where I'd say it's actually dangerous to be around. Somehow, Powercolor thought it was a good idea to reduce the fan speed as the GPU hotspot approaches 91 degrees C. I'm not kidding, the fan speed literally slows down as every component on the card gets hotter. Now, to be fair, the fan curve on the Sapphire Pulse also slows down over the first couple minutes and settles down to a steady state, but at least it's sufficient enough to keep the GPU hotspot under control. Not only that, but Powercolor's ITX fan curve is just a complete mess in general. It's all over the place. So instead of having a slightly louder and much cooler system, you can now enjoy a burning smell in your room. And I really need to emphasize that burning smell here because it reminds me of the times when I used to run my 3D printer in my room next to my desk and I'd have to open the window and leave the room because it would give me a migraine. It's enough to leave you with a really strong headache that will linger for hours, which is exactly what I got here, only having this card run on the test bench for 30 minutes. Now, some of you might think that I'm being a bit harsh to Powercolor here because at the end of the day, you can overcome this burning smell and really hot thermals with a manual fan curve, which we'll take a look at in just a minute. So I'm not doing this for clickbait or drama. I don't enjoy doing that kind of thing. The reason I'm doing this is because 90% of people buying this graphics card won't see this video review, and they also won't know what to do when they smell a burning smell in their system. They won't know what hardware monitoring software to download and then what fan tuning software to download to fix it. In fact, if they're going to be building a complete system from the ground up, they won't even know that it's coming from their graphics card. They might think it's coming from their power supply. They might think it's coming from, the motherboard connectors. That is going to cause the end user hours and potentially days of troubleshooting. And what makes this worse is that Powercolor have had a similar fan profile issue with their 5600 XT Red Dragon, resulting in the same burning smell. It's simply unacceptable, and it honestly makes it look like Powercolor don't even care about what they're producing. Now, the good news is that if you're watching this review, you probably know that you can manually set your own fan curve in a program like MSI Afterburner, and this will completely fix that burning smell that's created. For example, with the fan speed set to 2000 RPM as opposed to the 1000 or 1200 RPM at stock, thermals across the board are now a bit cooler than the larger Sapphire Pulse. Again, there's no magic here. We haven't undervolted, we haven't replaced the thermal pads, and we haven't increased the mounting pressure of the heatsink. All we've done is lift that fan curve. Of course, it is a bit louder, but by no means was the ITX card unbearably loud. So apart from the horrible stock fan curve and the potential to give you a literal headache, Powercolor's 5600 XT ITX is a capable little graphics card. This model does have the updated V-BIOS with a raised power limit and 14 gigabits per second memory clock to allow it to perform right in line with Nvidia's RTX 2060, as does the Sapphire Pulse, which performs pretty much identically. Performance at 1080p makes this card pretty much ideal in terms of value, and I could see this being very suitable for a tiny portable gaming rig, while also being cheaper than the RTX 2060 ITX cards. Powercolor also make the same card in an RX 5700 variant, but I'd personally avoid that one. You'd be paying around $50 or so more for not much of a performance uplift over this 5600 XT. So after manually setting the fan curve, this is a pretty capable card, and I can recommend it. I'm a little bit hesitant there because it does leave a bit of a bad taste when it does actually give you a headache after testing and not modifying that stock fan curve. But if you are buying this card, manually tuning it is 100% necessary. There's no question about it. And for the guy or team over there at Powercolor who is responsible for the fan tuning of their graphics cards, this is a big mistake because it not only leaves a scar on this graphics card, but across your whole product lineup and your whole brand. Now customers who might have bought the Red Dragon or the Red Devil, both really good cards, might pass up on those and buy something else. If you're after the most powerful graphics card to fit that ITX spec of 175mm, your best option is still the RTX 2070 Mini from MSI. However, quite a few of you have said that that is a bit hard to get your hands on. So if you don't mind setting your own fan curve in MSI Afterburner, this is a graphics card that I can objectively recommend, but quite reluctantly. I will leave it linked down below for those interested. As always, a huge thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.